Recording in progress.
Okay, we're back. Apropos of the conversation earlier, Mike, this is the slide that I said we had. The components of the existing bonded debt service is 40% of that is the new high school. And the point to be made here is that is a multi-generational project. And if it were not for that, our number would be well below, probably below five, well below five, in terms of percentage of our budget, and would give us significant capacity to do other things. And we're not done yet, right? There are other needs that are going to be coming down the pike. So, next up, Mary Jane's favorite slide. It's become a favorite slide for most of us. This was something you saw earlier today, so I'm not sure I need to talk much about it other than the fact that this trend line includes the anticipated bonding that has been put forth by the Board of Education and what you're going to see from the town, from the Board of Selectmen. Okay, next up here is the bond authorization project. This was, when it first came to us, you guys may have, many of you were participating in the capital presentations. Lake Quannapock Dam was also in this. However, we have received firm commitment that we are receiving $7.5 million in bond proceeds from the state of Connecticut for three major projects. The Lake Quannapock Dam, which was $3.1 million. I had confirmation both from Sean Scanlon as well as from the Speaker of the House as recently as last Tuesday. And there are two other projects that Falcon Road and Chimney Corner Circle. Now Falcon Road, we also have lot SIP money, which is the state federal transportation money for feeder routes. Believe it or not, Falcon Road is considered a feeder route. Not sure how that qualifies, but it does. So there may be some overlap there, which would give us an opportunity to use those funds for another sustainable project. So. This is pretty self-explanatory. The communications infrastructure is the upgrade for public safety communications network because the equipment is at end of life, end of service life, not end of life, end of service life. So we're not going to be able to have folks to work on it and support it and find replacement parts. Hubbard Road connects new sidewalks to Route 77. Road improvements, we do 500,000 every year, and there are major projects that take place every year. The new ambulance, that's got a 10-plus year life cycle, more like 15 to 20. The engine pumper, similarly, probably a 15 to 20-year life. The police department, that's a renovation of the locker room facilities. However, the roof project that we originally were contemplating, or we are contemplating for them, will come out of American Rescue Plan funds. The backhoe is a backhoe. That's got a usable life of about 25 years. I think the one we currently have is at least that old. And I mentioned the Lake Quannapock Dam. One thing I want to remind the board is that the Board of Selectmen comes to you for bonding projects every 2 years. So this represents 2 years worth of bonded projects. Okay. All right. As we've talked about ARPA funds, there are ARPA funds being used in this budget to offset the impacts of COVID. The additional help in the town clerk's office for absentee ballot workers. We still, even though we seem to be easing our way out, the population has taken to this absentee ballot usage. So town clerk overtime also for ballots. The additional cost for our full-time EDC coordinator is coming out of there until such time as Guilford and Madison evaluate the efficacy of the splitting that position between the two communities. Early returns are very favorable that we probably will continue to do that. The police department replacement salaries due to COVID, same thing for fire department replacement salaries for COVID, as well as in communications. The additional assistance in the health department. and the additional programs and assistance in youth and family services. When I provide some of the data at the next presentation, youth and family services is over 100% higher caseload than they had prior to COVID. That is still justified. I left some capital things in here because these were already approved in some form or fashion. The emergency shelter generator for here, which then turns this into a true emergency shelter because the current generator is not capable of taking care of the whole building. And that was already approved by Board of Selectmen and run by you folks as well. The pickleball courts at Bittner is just a swap. In my much failed effort to move the basketball courts to the police department, we had allocated $340,000 to do that money to do that up at Bittner. That money is no longer needed, so the pickleball courts will come out of that, and we'll be able to reallocate the balance of what we had anticipated using for the basketball courts. Okay, let's flip to the revenue side of the coin. This is really good news on the total local and intergovernmental. Notwithstanding what I mentioned that we have flat funding from the state, our local revenues are up by almost 24%. And you can see interest income. The unfortunate part of that is we pay more for a lot of other things. However, we are earning significantly greater than we did. We were in the, 80 to 100,000 range a couple of years ago, Mary Jane? On interest income? Did it get as low as 50?
Yeah. We barely made budget.
Yeah, right, $50. You're right. Building permits are up by $65,000. So that primarily is going to cover that technician, and then that increase in the technician. Town clerk revenues are anticipated to go up. EMS revenue, if you took a look at your numbers today from the fire department, they're probably going to come in at 120 to 125% of their revenue target. The delinquent taxes and interest are there. So that's a pretty significant increase in local revenues, which we haven't seen in quite some time. So what does that do? How does those new revenues impact the net town budget costs, which would be the next slide? Thank you, Karen. So the total revenue increase is $883,000. The new expenditures at 1.6 results in a net town budget increase of 1.97%, or just under 2%. All right, now to the elephant in the room or throughout the community, grand list growth. Yeah, but you're right, buckle up is right. The net taxable grand list, the real estate went up 32%. The net taxable on motor vehicles up 8%. Personal property 62.7%. And the total net grand list grew by 32.96%. When we start to talk about mill rate impacts, et cetera, we're going to do some things. There's going to be some assumptions made, and MJ and I have already started working on that. Based on the trends for the last couple of years, in order to get an apples to apples kind of comparison, we're going to look at somewhere between it's about 1. Yeah, 1.5% increase in the grand list, because that's what we've actually seen through the last couple of COVID cycles. Grand list growth over the last couple of years. So we're gonna have to finesse some numbers and make them so people can get some apples to apples comparison. So next one, Karen, please. So the total grand list grew by over $4 million. $4,209,000 is the total. It grew by a little over 1.1, which is significant. One of the things that I do want to caution, there is going to be a shift to residential. And we're working with Rebecca, our new assessor. It appears as if residential real estate grew by about 37%. So more to come. So, I thank you for your time and your attention on this, and I'd be happy to answer a couple of quick questions. I don't want to be the one that stands between everyone and bedtime. I'd be happy to answer.
Too late for that.
Yes, too.
We already changed the tape. We're good.
Oh, we can go for another hour and 45 minutes?
Sure. Huh. Do I hear grunting?
So, MJ, I believe you provided us a bunch of documents today, or over the past couple of weeks, including the summary document shows every department and by line item in terms of the increase. So,
Okay.
and as always, I am available for any calls or conversations or emails with specific questions, and we look forward to the opportunity to present this to the public at your annual budget hearing.
Great. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Comprehensive, educational as always. And thank you.
But I ran into
to
the second table.
Yeah, you did.
Questions?
Yeah, sure, John.
Yeah, I just wanted to acknowledge the fact that several members, actually all the members of the Board of Selectmen are either present or here, and I know Matt did, but thank you for coming out tonight. It's good seeing you all. Again, because we saw you at the workshops,
That's
the
right.
department workshops, so good to see you
Yeah, not a
supporting
lot
the
of
budget.
surprises.
Yep. Sure, burning questions.
Bernie. All right, so I always asking about new hires,
Yep.
and I think just confirm if I got them right in my notes. 2 more full-time positions. One's policeman for the school.
Yeah.
Another one was health department technician to support
No, that's a
PCA.
part-time. That's part-time.
That's part-time,
Right.
Is that
The other
position?
full-time is the permit technician
permit technician.
in building.
Okay. One part-time cook at the community center.
Well, I went from part-time to full-time.
Part-time to full-time, okay. So I think I got those figured out. Another question is about the WPCA stuff. I'm kind of curious how much the Deep wants to enforce it and what other municipalities are really doing about it.
Right.
And then I'm curious that I feel like Guilford may be ahead of the curve, possibly. I don't know for sure, but I was told that one of your meetings, they've got a new software package to try and track it, and you're going and doing the hiring for the clerks to take care of this. Is there an opportunity for regionalization and to invite other towns to say, hey, we've got your software package, give us some money?
The software package is really only going to go to allow us to track the things that we are doing. And that is pump out permits. It's predominantly pump out permits is what we're doing.
Wouldn't extend across towns?
Well, most towns have that kind of software. We have never had it.
Okay. And then the COLA, I know if I remember right, we reserved some money in case there's a COLA increase.
We
So
did.
that's in this year's budget.
We have money in reserve at this point, and the anticipated COLA award is a 2.8% across the board, which amounts to a little over $100,000. And the Board of Selectmen is pretty clear that were there to be significant cuts to our budget, that would be one of the areas that we would look at.
So that'd be $100K a year?
Yeah.
And then, just curious, historically, I
But
thought these
that's
COLAs.
There's $100,000 in there this year, okay?
In the reserve?
The subsequent years,
Yeah.
it would come out of the pension account.
Do we have any projection of how much it would cost to grant the COLA?
It's nominal, quite honestly.
No,
What was it? It's about $100,000 the first year. It was 90 something, I think it was, and then that basically remains flat going forward.
Okay, and then historically.
Actually, it decreases
I
over
just want
time.
to remind you, Mitch is on the.
Yeah, Mitch.
And so,
Yeah, I wish I knew the answer off the top of my head, but it does go down, but it will be, I believe, a 20-year commitment, but it would be, as Matt said, it would then be rolled into the pension numbers and would not be a separate item as has been shown tonight.
Now, have we ever granted a COLA in the
Yes,
past?
the last time it was in 2008, and it was,
Okay.
quite honestly, it was, it was every few years they were granting them up until 2008. And for those whose memories are sharp enough, 2008 was when the housing market crashed, and there hasn't been a COLA granted since that time.
Okay, those are some of the big ones. You got one more short one, wrap it up?
Yeah.
All right, so I'm just curious about this. I always am interested in the money that we kind of have sitting around that
Yep.
hasn't gone to work for the taxpayers. So I got the recollection of, like, I think we called it the Energy Fund, and we funded it with like $200,000 for 5 years.
Right.
We had about $1 million in there.
Yep.
And we definitely found some opportunities to do something. I think we converted Town Hall to gas.
Yep.
And is there any money left there?
And there's
Small pockets of money, we utilize that money first
Yeah.
before we
Right,
go
and-
to the Board of Selectmen for any additional funds, so.
And one of the anticipated uses is we have received a grant award from DEP and from Eversource for 3 new EV charging stations for the greater downtown area. An additional one would be put at the town hall. An additional 2 units would be put at town hall parking lot. One at the parking lot behind the stores on Whitfield Street, and another one here. So we're looking to utilize that seed money.
I got to ask you another question, because I can't afford a Tesla, but let me ask you this.
Maybe a Prius?
The generator we're getting, right?
Yep.
Could that fund be, used to pay for the generator instead of, I think, what is it, operating capital?
I don't think we have anywhere near that kind of money left.
About 200,000?
The generator is 200,000 on the capital plan in the ARPA original award, but we've just finalized the contract, and it is 164,000, so.
Okay. And then I just wanted to thank Mary Jane and Linda. I've been sending a lot of questions out by email, and I appreciate you got back to me on a few of them already.
Sorry, I was on vacation.
I'm sorry I didn't hit you with so many, but I didn't even know you were on vacation, so.
One last
thanks
thing.
for getting back to me.
One last thing, how much you want for the backhoe?
Actually, we're utilizing a new service. We don't even post bids and go out anymore. We have an online auction firm that we got rid of how many vehicles?
Yeah, it's Go Deals, it's an online bidding for
The
municipalities.
last Crown Vic is gone, I hear.
Stanley wants the fire engine.
Yes.
Fire engine, that's what Bob had first dibs.
Karen can attest, I did go back to Karen and let her know if any fire trucks come up, to please let the Board of Finance know first. We have many
Park them
tables.
anywhere.
Absolutely.
Although I think Megan's got a couple of young boys who would love to have one too.
Yeah, she said
Yeah,
she
I
wants
will
one
see it
too.
and I will bid on that.
Yeah, Megan was on the list, yeah.
Best mom ever.
Yeah.
I'll be super competitive with that too, so.
Thank you, Matt.
Well said. Thank you very much for your time and your attention.
Okay, moving on to item number 10, committee reports. The only question we had requested the EDC newsletter. Does that come out monthly or quarterly? Because there wasn't, we would requested to have it.
Yeah, she reports to us on the Board of Selectmen on a monthly basis.
I think we had just requested that whatever the EDC newsletter is, that we also get as a part of the committee,
It was gonna be put in the committee.
with the committee reports, but I didn't know if it was a monthly newsletter report or a quarterly.
yeah.
If it's monthly, then that would be great if we could, whenever it comes out.
It really depends on when she has an update, so
Sure.
it's not usually, it depends.
When there's a report, post it whenever it comes up. Thank you. Okay, just want to make sure we didn't miss it. Thank you. Anything on building permits?
Oh, and just a clarification, because we got a lot of calls in the office on this. The planning and zoning sign that was over at the Shoreline Plaza is not for somebody going into Walmart.
No.
It's for Chase Bank putting a freestanding
Oh, right.
facility in the
That's right.
parking lot adjacent to where Bank of America is.
Great. Thank you for the update. Okay. Item number 11, old business. Remove from table and take possible action on elected officials' salary for the registrar of voters. First thing I need, or we need, would be a motion to remove the item.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. I have a lot of notes. So I'm going to use my notes for this, just to make sure I stay on track and don't misspeak. Mr. Goldblatt, thank you for joining us virtually, just in case, for any reason, I misspeak. But, so, and I do see that both registrar of voters are on. So I see Gloria and Lisa. Yes. So over the last couple of months, we've had discussion on possible salary adjustments for the registrar of voters. We had placed the discussion and any decisions regarding any changes on hold until further consultation and input from the Human Resources Director, of course, Mitch Goldblatt. So everyone has a memo that was addressed to me and then sent to all of the board regarding, and it was that was a memo dated February 8th, where additional information had been provided regarding current salary, recent collective bargaining agreements, and a survey of area towns beyond those provided last month from CCM regarding like populations. And Mitch, thank you for that additional information. However, as you all noticed, the timing of a salary increase decision for the registrar of voters, or any elected official for that matter, was referred by Mr. Goldblatt to town council. So over the last week or so, I have had conversations by email with town council. And so I wanted to just, and if anybody would like the email, it's fine, but I figured I would save everybody more email in their inbox and try to paraphrase this. It's actually a pretty simple idea behind this, but ultimately we will be able to move forward with a discussion and decision tonight. And let me just paraphrase. Per town council Peter Barrett, I had been sent the relevant statute by which towns are empowered to establish the compensation of its officials and employees, which is the Connecticut General Statute 7-460. There are some restrictions set forth in the Connecticut Constitution with respect to increasing the compensation of elected officials, and in particular, there's an article, I believe it's 19, Section 2. And however, when you read this article, because the legislative body of the town of Guilford is the town meeting, this constitutional prohibition or limitation does not apply to Guilford. I guess in summary, or in paraphrasing again, in the town meeting form of government, there are more checks and balances, and this is why it was carved out of the Section 2 requirements. So as we all know, the Board of Finance makes a recommendation to the town meeting. At the town budget meeting, there's a process by which an appropriation, such as a salary increase for registrars, or for that matter, any elected official, can be removed by a vote. And then the entire budget goes to machine vote by the town electors. So our town council's opinion, Mr. Barrett, Attorney Barrett, indicated that the Board of Finance can lawfully include a raise for registrar of voters and other elected officials if it so determines at any time as part of the annual budget process. There was concern over the last couple months that the timing of this could be off, and I did want to address that because make sure I'm staying on my notes. So again, I would agree with what Attorney Barrett indicated with discussing and deciding on a possible salary adjustment for registrar of voters. However, there's been past precedent, and I think this is also somewhat on perception purposes, that it would be my recommendation that in the future the Board of Finance review elected official salaries 2 to 3 months prior to the election of that position, which is what we have been doing over however many years I've been on the board, and prior to that, as I'm sure Mr. Hoey can attest. So I want to just make sure that for the board understands, although we have the flexibility to determine elected official salaries at any point to incorporate into the budget that's going to be voted on at town meeting and then at referendum, that we would be reviewing, based on the current terms and the way the election, the terms are set up, the Board of Selectmen would be reviewed in August and/or September in that time frame of 2025 for their 4-year term, because the election would be in 2025. And the Registrar of Voters would be reviewed in August or September 2026 for their 4-year term. So it's right before their election, so it does not look or be perceived as if we are giving a person an increase as opposed to the position.
Right.
Okay? Does everybody understand that? I know I said I paraphrase and I...
It also goes to the position rather than the person that you're
Right.
talking to, and it's motivation for
Exactly.
someone who might be interested in running for a
To know
particular
what-
office to know
Right.
ahead of time what the salary is.
Exactly.
Yeah.
The only question I had, the only thing how to codify it or codify it, right, is it, do we need to have a policy to do that, or we just, because we did miss this, and I know that, we're going to discuss a registrar of voters possible salary adjustment, and there might be some people on virtually thinking, I got to wait until 2026. We have the flexibility to do it now, and I'll explain more. But how do we make sure this gets done and we don't miss it? Because there were a lot of people that missed it. The Board of Finance, there were a lot of people that missed it, and it went right by. So we just need to make sure we somehow codify it.
You may not be aware, although I think you were on the committee when we actually put the last revision to the rules, the Board of Finance's rules and regulations. I thought we had codified that exact scenario that you just laid out in the rules and regs.
Right.
I would recommend you put it, modify the rules and regs as a board, so that is when you have to, by a board, on your rules, you have to do it at that point. Then it's a question of finding finding the mechanism to remind you that needs to happen. And I would think that the clerk, Tracy in this case, and for as long as she wants to stay in this role, would be the one that would
Right.
be responsible for
We've all
making
put it
sure.
in our calendars already.
Yeah, I'm sure.
It's an exciting date.
I'm sure.
Yeah.
Don't want to miss it.
But if that's your intent to formalize it, I would add it to the rules and regs. It's not that, it's like a 3-page document, it's not extensive. And in fact, I think the reason we put the rules and regs together was when we required that the Standing Building Committee
Review of capital
review every
projects.
bonded capital project.
Yeah.
That may have been the last adjustment to that.
Well,
So-
maybe it wouldn't hurt us to review the whole document.
That would be, I think we should.
Yeah.
Just make sure there's nothing we're missing and add this so that it doesn't get missed. So, and we have a couple of years to do it, but I would obviously, I'm sure the board doesn't want to wait a couple of years to codify anything, or at least put in a policy, so.
But now while it's
Do it now while it's fresh in our
we have-
memories,
We have
so.
all the answers right there.
So that's something we can get onto the agenda to, for even our next regular meeting or next couple regular meetings, either March or April, and discuss this.
And I think,
And review and discuss.
I think Mitch will corroborate the fact that we have money in reserve for personnel
Yes.
there now, and as his memo stated,
Mm-hmm.
if the legal opinion came down, you couldn't do it, there was ways around it.
Right.
By utilizing
With
stipends.
stipends or something like that.
As opposed to a salary,
Yep.
salary treatment. But
Great. So, okay, so that's great. So that's how we'll do that moving forward. But obviously, the big thing that we need to discuss is any kind of adjustment regarding the registrar of voters. So going back last month, we had all agreed, based on some discussion that we had, that an increase we all pretty much, I think, across the board felt was warranted. I took a look at all the information. I not only looked at the information prior, but I looked at all of the new information that Mitch had sent. Again, very much appreciated. And I noted a couple of different items before I kind of throw out a recommendation. That the registrar of voters increases over the last 3 years, and this was coming right out of our budget information from the department meetings, was 2.36%, 1.85, and 0.49%, if I did that correctly. So they were not, and I don't know what the year before that first year was increased, but regardless, they were pretty much all under that 2.5, and then they went down each year. I had taken a look, and I don't know how anybody else looked at the numbers, or if anyone did, but I applied the Guilford population proportion to each set of the numbers. So I did it both for the area towns that were sent in the memo, and I looked at it also from the information we had before previously. And when you proportionalize it, it came out anywhere between 23,000, low 23,000 range for towns with like population, and almost 26,000 for area towns, if you just took the proportions of the Guilford population to what they were dollar for dollar. The midpoint of that is, just doing math, which was actually not simple math. It was a little bit more complicated than I wanted it to be, but it was about a midpoint of 24,005. That would be it would turn out to be an initial 5% increase from what they are currently making, and it's currently in the budget. So when I looked at that, I said, all right, well, I think we all had kind of gone to a number, I think it was 25,000, but I thought, a 5% increase the first year, and then certainly amenable to any discussion going at, and again, if you look at the numbers, a 2.5 increase per year after that would get the registrar of voters to about 26, actually I wrote the number down, it's about 26.5. And I'm sure in some of these like towns, area towns, where you look at the populations and you look at what the numbers are, some of these are going to go up. So these are what they are now, but just like we're looking at ours, they might go up. So I just thought it would be, I thought as a recommendation, be fair to go 5% for the first year, 2.5 after that. And that would bring the numbers still pretty much right in where the rest of the area towns are, and is not focused on, and I think this was some of the discussion we were having, and some of the problem I was having is some of the towns we were comparing to the first time around were Fairfield County, Hartford County, higher end, the populations were of populations that were in counties that I don't think necessarily were as fair to compare to. But the area towns kind of brought that to another level of, okay, now we have more information to kind of look at. So I'll leave it open to discussion, but that would be my recommendation, is 5 and then 2.5 the next 3 years.
2.5
The next
3 years?
Yes,
Okay.
yes, each year. So it would go from 24.5 to about 26.5 over the 4-year period.
Do these other towns, these registrars and these other towns that you mentioned have larger staffs than ours do?
I do not know that as far as registrar of voters. I don't know
In other words,
if that's something that we could direct the question to Gloria, Lisa, or Mitch, when Mitch was doing the research on registrar of voters and staff.
Mr. Chairman, I did not look at staff, but I think most of our registrars, especially in the small towns, and Lisa and Gloria are online here, so they probably know better, are pretty much run by the town. Some have assistant registrars, deputy registrars that, are very busy around election time, less so as the year goes on, unless they're doing a canvass. I mean, there's help, no doubt, but I think it falls on the registrars, and that's what we were focused on with this comparison.
And I was just going to say the other reason on the 5% increase, which sounds like a lot, but let's keep in mind what's going to be going on over the next year with early voting and other regulations, other things that are going to be happening. I think it's definitely a fair increase, at least based on the numbers and everything else. So Jonathan, go ahead.
Yeah, so, I wanted to say that I'm not actually opposed to your recommendation, but just one thought had occurred to me. Mitch had given me some data on what the different bargaining units got for their increases.
Yep.
And I thought it might be sort of dispassionate to just say, why don't we just give them the average increase? I don't know if it would work out similar to what you have or not.
Well, honestly, I took that in consideration when I was looking at it, the 2.5 over the 3 years after, but the initial increase of 5% based on a lot of things that are going to go on educationally in terms of the early voting and how we don't know how they don't even know how it's going to really roll out yet. So, but then from that 5%, I think that gets them to a point, and then it's that 2.5.
A little front loaded.
A little front loaded.
Well, the 5%
you may
brings
all feel
them
differently,
into competitive, it makes them competitive with everybody now. And then to your point about a normal 2.5% is what the bargaining.
I think it's very close amount of money
I think
we're
similar
talking
to
about.
what the first selectman is talking about doing with the GEA is somewhat what's happening with the registrars. They're below, and we need to bring them up to I don't know what the right term is, market value, or, you
It's
know.
a good point.
And then,
It's a legitimate
Keep
point.
up with it.
Yeah.
And the dollars that we're talking about are not huge, I mean, compared to the budget we've just
Yeah,
been talking
it's
about.
so
it's-
similar
it's
either
a
way.
couple
So I don't want to
$1,000s.
belabor it. I just had that
Yeah.
idea, and I thought I would share it.
No, and one thing, just one other point I want to make, going back to my initial comments about the timing of this, whether we did this in August or September or does it now, it would still be implemented the same budget year. Because even if we did it in August, September, it wouldn't be until the following fiscal year.
Right.
But the decision would have been made.
Right.
So now, you could say that, well, the perception is it's the people that were in it, but I believe, if I remember correctly, they were unopposed. So, just like it was 4 years ago, they were unopposed. So it's, that perception is different if you have people running against each other and there's personalities behind
Yeah.
that elected position. So, not to say that we don't like the personalities of Gloria and Lisa, of course we do. But it could be skewed or, perceptionally, and so there would be no difference in the timing of this. We're still implementing it July 1st, 2023, that 5%, and then each year after that, 2.5. That, and again, that's the recommendation.
Do you want to put it in the form of a motion?
I could certainly do that
Mr.
if you'd like me to. Any others?
I'll put it in the form of a motion.
Okay.
I don't know, I gotta think of the wording.
Do you want it? Can you read that?
Yeah. I'd like to motion that an increase in the registrar of voters' salary over the next 4 years from fiscal year '23 to fiscal year '27 as follows. 5% increase from fiscal year '22 to fiscal year '23 to fiscal year '23 to '24, and then a 2.5% increase over the next 3 years.
Just to be clear, each year.
Well,
I'll second.
that wasn't written.
I'll second.
I
that
knew it
motion.
here.
I know what you meant.
Yeah, right. A second?
Yep,
Any further discussion? Okay.
Just like
Oh.
to say, we appreciate everything that Gloria and Lisa do on an annual basis. Every year it's something, whether it's primaries or referendums or presidential races. It's extraordinary, the amount of work that goes into running good elections in our community.
I echo that. Yes, Mr. Purcell.
Mitch?
Yeah.
Reserve, what you have in reserve for personnel, going to cover that?
Yeah, it will.
Okay.
We'll make it work, Matt.
All right.
I mean, it's I wasn't quite expecting that, but we'll make it work.
Right, oh no. Okay, anything further? Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Abstentions? Okay, thank you, everyone. Item number 12.
Thank you all.
Very welcome, Lisa. Item number 12.
Thank you for the kind words, Veronica.
Oh, I met them. I met them, both of you.
Okay, item number 12, new business. We're in the home stretch now. I just wanted to mention the next steps in the budget process. Everyone here knows what it is, but for the viewing public. We will, I was looking at my notes from last year, and it was virtual last year. We are going to be back in person again, finally, so that deserves a big hurrah.
Will it be hybrid? or
It
virtual?
will be hybrid. It came to my attention that it will be, I believe, in this room, so that we have the hybrid technology. I think we'll be able to fit everyone that usually comes out in this room. We usually have it in the big room, and, you know, it's like an echo chamber. So, but anyway, we will have the hybrid model for the budget process. The public budget hearing will be on Tuesday, March 7th at 7:30. There will be public forum after the presentations by the town and the Board of Education. And then the Board of Finance budget workshops will be scheduled for Thursday, March 9th, and Monday, March 13th both at 7:30. The March 13th one will be if needed. There will be public forum at both of those workshops, before and after. And I would remind everyone that it is possible that both nights may be utilized to discuss the budget, not because we may need both nights, but because weather has gotten in the way before. I'm not going to say anything about weather this year because it has been so crazy, so we're just going to leave that alone and not jinx anything. As done over the past couple of years, Tracy, I didn't bring this to your attention before, but I'm sure we could. Over the past couple of years, because of COVID, we had public comments submitted in writing, and we will again encourage that, to have the public submit comments that would be read and or summarized into record during public forum. I believe I don't know if we still have the link up or it just needs to be reactivated.
I just did it.
You already ahead of, wait, everybody ahead on the slides, ahead on the links. That's fantastic. So that link will be on the homepage of the town website, and with the ability to be able to provide comment. So, any further on the budget process?
Not in the budget process.
I only have one other thing, but
Go ahead. No, I can wait.
well, it's just basically, I believe, and I'm going to look right at Mary Jane. I believe the 21-22 fiscal year audit report is that going to be available soon?
Touchy question.
The status of it, and would it be presented at our March meeting, or?
It is my intention.
It's your
at this
intention.
point.
Okay.
That it'll be brought to you at the March meeting.
Okay. Okay. Another one I should have, hey, Mary Jane, by the way. Well, I know it's pending. I know it's coming. So, I just wanted to see what the status was so that we know what's going to go on the agenda for March. So, and that will be after our budget process. So, it'll be a light meeting. Okay.
Yeah, we would have it in March for that reason anyway.
Great. Okay. Veronica.
Mr. Chairman, just
Yep.
one thing.
Yeah, oh, sure.
For the meeting in here, for the budget hearing in here, anticipating that it might be tight if people decide to show up.
Mhm.
I will have, with the exception of Mary Jane, and maybe Mitch, although I don't know if you're traveling, Mitch, are you? You're out of town?
You should say yes.
I'll be out of town.
Yeah.
I'll be out of town,
All
sorry.
right, so, but I will need you via Zoom, but I'm gonna have all the department heads come in via Zoom so that it frees
Okay.
up space in here, and we need to figure out how to maximize the number of chairs we can put in here.
Sure.
In the event that it is wildly popular and people show up.
I will gladly sit out in the hall.
We would like to think it's wildly popular,
Linda
but
and I
it,
won't take up
I'd settle for
space, we'll
coffee.
sit in the hall.
yeah.
Put you guys along the
Even
back
just a
wall
pop.
and, yeah, we can make it
Excellent.
work.
Well, yeah, we will.
When we were virtual, we had, I think, over 60 people.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, people can just watch the meeting and be involved in their pajamas. I mean, what's better than that?
Exactly, it's a much better way,
Yeah. Yeah.
for a lot of people to.
Popcorn,
to
pajamas.
come.
Veronica.
I had the opportunity to go into the town clerk's office, and I was surprised that we don't accept credit cards. So I was wondering if there's any plans to do that. Is it in our not infrastructure, but information services to give them the ability to accept credit cards?
It's really never been an issue that they've been concerned with, particularly since.
Well, I bring it up because we require it at the transfer station, and it should be, I think it should be What do I want to say?
We required it,
Even.
we required it at a transfer station for a very different reason.
Oh, yeah, I know, right, and
Mike, you like that one? And we actually don't take credit cards for taxes in the building. You have to do that online.
yeah.
And we don't take it in the building. And a lot of folks don't like to use credit card because they pay the fee. We're not absorbing the fee for any of those, particularly as it relates to taxes. Because let's say if everybody got the opportunity to do it, we'd be 3% short every year.
No,
All right?
I
So-
agree about.
So, yeah, so, but as a convenience, possibly. We can.
You can charge them the 3%, I think. A
Oh, yeah,
lot of
absolutely.
places
Yeah,
do
the
that.
state statutes allow us to pass that fee along. As a municipality, we can pass that fee along.
Yeah, I didn't realize that.
We'll, I tell you what, we'll work with them and find out how often they get asked for it.
Well, I mean, I would think it would be more than you think. I don't know anybody today, especially young people, that walk around with cash.
Right. No, checks.
Checks.
You know.
I mean, a lot of recordings are being done in a formal way, and it's probably one of the last places you're gonna actually have the need for a check paper trail. You could do it by credit card, but it creates another layer of accounting that's just kind of complicated. It's just easier to have a series of checks on file.
We'll have a discussion with the court, see where it goes.
Okay.
Just
Well,
like that.
if we're gonna do that, can the tax collector take IOUs from us? Just
I want you to poll young people and ask them if they have checks.
Yeah, me too.
My son has to come and give me cash and I write a check for him when he needs, like, pay a ticket or something.
Yeah, I don't know anyone that does have checks.
Do you take Venmo?
Now,
There you go, Venmo.
That's the other one.
Venmo.
Now you're talking.
Skip the credit cards.
I don't carry a checkbook.
cryptocurrency?
1099Ks, people, don't do this.
You know, Mr. Chairman, I can actually vouch for that somewhat. I do carry checks, but with a lot of our newer employees to do direct deposit, I can't get them to submit a check. They have to go to the bank and get a copy from the bank that shows, but they don't know what it is, their routing number and their checking number, even though they don't carry actual physical checks. So it is a reality. I think, and Megan's correct, I think for most young people, checks don't exist. Venmo does. And credit cards and debit cards do.
It'll be interesting to see what, as we'll find out. So that's-
I think pretty soon they'll accept eggs.
Well, they are high commodity right now. Anything else for new business? Item 13, public forum.
Come on, Gloria.
Okay. Seeing none, hearing none. It is that time. We'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
Move
Second.
adjourned.
Wow, don't everybody jump at once. Okay, here in a second. All in favor?
Bye.
Aye. Thank you, everyone.